All right, guys, so now we're gonna go ahead and we are going to move on to this, and I am gonna have to kind of flip this back and forth because it says to use the parallelograms that we drew to complete the task below. So the first thing I need to do is it says to measure the angles of the parallelogram with your protractor and record the measurements on the figure. So we're gonna go ahead and do that first. And so when we have our protractor, which is this clear kind of flimsy one, what you wanna make sure is that when you are lining this up, you always want it to be lined up so that you have the straight line here and then this line is kind of at the angle. So this angle is measured, I'm gonna say, best that I can is 113 degrees, okay? And then this one, I'm going to measure and, oh, that's oh, well, darn it. It is 68 degrees. Okay. And I'm kind of moving my paper because it's easier to look at our angles this way. And this one, oh, perfect, 110 degrees. And then right here, I want to do the same thing. There we go. Oh, and if I kind of look, that's nice. I have that line right there so you can really see it. That's going to be 65 degrees. Okay, so very nice. I have no right angles. On this one, I'm just gonna kind of line this up and that's 90 degrees. And whenever you do a 90-degree angle, they always label it kind of with that square. So you know that that is a 90-degree angle. This one's 90 degrees as well. Okay, I can come over here. If I should do this correctly. That one is 90 degrees. And I can actually flip this over and write this correctly, 90 degrees. And then same thing here. This angle is 90 degrees as well. Oh, sorry guys, 90 degrees as well, okay? Okay, so those kind of match. So then the next one I need to figure this out. And when I look here, well, let's go ahead and start with this one. This one is 115 degrees. Love it when it's nice and easy for us to look at. Okay. This one, when I look at it, corner, I'm going to say 65 degrees, okay, guys? So you can kind of see that it goes up to that 65 degrees. Okay. This one, another big one. It is going to be, oh, perfect, 115 degrees. I love it when it's like that. And if you kind of see a pattern, what do you think that this angle will possibly be? Let's take a look at this. Wow, 65 degrees. So if you take a look at this, the opposite degrees are actually equal and the same. So we will kind of talk about that and you'll kind of notice that. Same thing over here. All of these, if you measure them, are all 90 degrees. Okay, 90-degree angle, 90-degree angle, 90-degree angle. So they're all 90 degrees. Okay, so now what we're going to do is we are going to mark off that we have done letter A. And then letter B, it says to use a marker or crayon to circle the pairs of angles in each parallelogram that equal 180 degrees. Okay, and so when I look at this, I'm going to take a look. And 180 degrees, I know it's going to be 90 degrees plus 90 degrees. 90 plus 90 is going to be 180. 90 and 90 is going to be 180. Okay. If I look up here, I don't think I have any that equal that 180. That's only going to be just over 120. This one's going to be just over 120 as well, or 220, so it's not going to work. But let's kind of take a look at this. I wonder what is 115 plus 65. Let's look at this. 115 and 65. Huh. These angles right here also equal 180 degrees. Did the math. Okay. So those are all the angles that equal that 180 degrees. Okay. This one, it says to draw another parallelogram below. So I'm just going to freehand, because it didn't tell me I needed to, another parallelogram. And just remember that they need to have all parallel sides. Okay, so those are all parallel sides. So there's my parallelogram. It says draw the diagonals and measure their lengths. So I'm going to say that this one, I'm going to kind of round it, and I'm going to say it is 1 inch. Okay, this one should also be 1 inch. So it's about 1 inch as well. And then this one, these diagonals, I'm going to say that's pretty simple. It's really close to that. That's 2 1/4 of an inch. So I'm going to do 2 1/4 of an inch. 2 1/4 of an inch. Record the measurements in the cited figure, which we already did, so we're done with that one. It says to measure the length of each of the 4 segments in the diagonals from the vertices to the point of intersection of the diagonals. Color the segments that have the same length and same color. Excuse me, what do you notice? So what it says is we're going to measure the length of each of the 4 segments of the diagonals. So I'm basically going to measure this diagonal. And when I look at this diagonal right here is 2 inches. And when I look at this one, this diagonal is 3 inches. Okay, what is something that you notice? Okay, color the segments that have the same length, the same color. Well, this one has, they all have different lengths, okay? So what do we kind of notice about this? Okay, what do you think they cut them into? Well, they cut them into triangles, okay? So we have now created 4 triangles. Okay, list the properties that are shared by all the parallelograms that you worked with today. So let's kind of think about them, okay? We know that they all have 4 sides. Okay. They have 2 sets of parallel sides. And remember, the parallel sides have to be on the opposite sides of them. Okay. The diagonals, when you look at it, the diagonals actually bisect. So if I were to come here and draw diagonals in all of them, they all will bisect with each other. So all diagonals bisect. Okay. And when I look at this, what do I notice about the opposite sides? Well, the opposite sides are the same length. Okay. The next one says, when can a quadrilateral also be called a parallelogram? Okay. It can also be called a parallelogram because remember, a quadrilateral is a shape that has 4 sides. Okay. And not all quadrilaterals can be parallelograms because of the 4 sides. A quadrilateral can also be a parallelogram because it has, sorry, I'm going to hit ignore. It has to have 2 parallel sides. Okay. When can a trapezoid be called a parallelogram? When it has 2 sets of parallel sides. So just remember that. I'm going to pull out some of these papers that are also in your templates that you guys can take a look at. And here is one of the templates, and here is what you have is you have a quadrilateral. They all have 4 shapes. All of these are quadrilaterals, okay? Here's your parallelogram because it has 2 sets of parallel sides. Here's your trapezoid because it does not have those 2 parallel sides. Okay, it only has 1 parallel side, so you can kind of take a look at this one. Okay, this other template that you also have, it's exactly the same thing, but just kind of know that here's kind of, you have your quadrilateral, you can also have a trapezoid, and you can also have a parallelogram. The only time a trapezoid can be a parallelogram is when they have those 2 parallel sides. Remember, trapezoids have to have at least one parallel side.